Take it away, Gareth.
All right. Thanks very much, Nick. All right. Tonight we have a wonderful guest by the name of Katie Bartel. Katie is a resident of Canada, but she's out on the West Coast, so closer to some of you and further away from a lot of us. Now, Katie has many letters after her name. She's a registered dietitian, a certified diabetes educator, and a T1D. And for tonight's discussion, probably the last three characters are the most important. But she's many other things as well. She's an avid cyclist. She's a mum. She's a wife. She's a book lover, a world traveler, a former journalist for a newspaper. She's now switched careers and is a registered dietitian, certified diabetes educator, as we mentioned, and a type 1 diabetes. And I have to add, I believe she's also a hiker, which is a wonderful thing. Now, Katie left her career in journalism to become a registered dietitian working specifically for the type 1 diabetes population. Katie writes a type 1 diabetes focused blog, and you can find that at www.katiebartel.ca. She also hosts the Diabetic to Dietetics podcast, where she showcases unique stories of people living with type 1 diabetes. Now, this year, her adventure plans for the year include a whole lot of concerts with her teenage son, featuring music that predominantly features 90s grunge, which is a wonderful selection, I hasten to add. However, I'm going to hand this over to Katie, and she will actually truly entertain us all with a wonderful presentation. So, Katie, please take it away.
Thank you, Gareth. Thank you, everyone, for coming to hang out with me today. I really hope I can entertain you. Today's topic is looking at nutrition strategies for the aging body with type 1. I thought that I would share a little bit more about my type 1 experience before we get started. I have no disclosures to report. I forgot to mention that. But here's just kind of a visual representation of me with T1D. I was diagnosed at 9 years old, way back in 1987, almost 4 decades with this condition. I hear that some of you are a lot longer than that, though. So the first picture, that was me in the hospital when I was diagnosed. The second picture here is my high school graduation. If you look closely enough, you might be able to spot that I was still on old school syringes with the vial. Probably at that point, still NPH and Human-R. I had not yet transitioned to a better long acting or the pens, but those would come. Um, the next picture, I was pregnant in my 30s and I had my trusty Animus pump attached to my pants pocket in this picture. And the last picture here, completely different pump. I was with my son. It was about a year and a half ago, and I was entering the stage of perimenopause. Every single one of these stages represents a change in my body, which means probably a change in how I had to manage my diabetes, manage my nutrition, my activity levels. Some stages I did it better than other stages, but we are always having to adjust. And no matter what stage of life we're at, no matter how long we've had diabetes, most of us probably recognize when our body changes, our diabetes often changes as well, and we need to kind of pivot oftentimes in how we manage it. So today we are going to be exploring the golden years stage of life, and how our bodies change, how our type 1 might change, some of the challenges that we might experience, We will look at some general recommendations related to nutrition, supplements, physical activity to help mitigate some of those challenges, reduce them, make them less challenging. Keeping in mind, a lot of the recommendations that we're going to be talking about are cookie cutter recommendations. And we know that everybody is different, which means, the way we respond to different recommendations might not work as well for one person as it works for another person. These recommendations, however, can be a foundation to give you some tools to work on if needed. And we will look at some specific areas of that might be a little bit more challenging, see how we might be able to strategize those. I am going to be providing some tools to help you take these recommendations and apply them more specifically to your own needs. Um, so let's get started. I am hoping that this can be a good interactive discussion. I much prefer having this back and forth discussion than being a talking head. And so I'm going to ask some questions. Feel free to ask me questions if they pop up. I can't see the chat box, so I'm hoping that Gareth or Nick can let me know if questions come up. But the first question I have for you, we are going to look at the challenges, but what are the positives of this stage of life? And I am certain there are a lot as I see my husband starting entering this area now. I am envious of some of the things that he's experiencing that I'm not yet experiencing. So I thought we could make this a bit of a brainstorm, rapid fire, unmute, and just kind of share like, what do you feel are some of the positives to this age, this stage? Any thoughts here?
More consistency.
Consistency in what sense?
Uh, there's less hormonal fluctuation.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Anyone else? And it can be anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be diabetes related.
Yeah, Janice pointed out retirement.
Retirement, yeah. That's what I'm seeing my husband go through, and I'm very jealous.
That's what I figured.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Uh, just having more time for diabetes, for anything else that you're interested in.
Absolutely. Okay. If anyone else wants to chime in, now is the time. Otherwise, I will go on to my next slide.
There's more consistency to your days that you can, more routine, shall I say, very few
Yeah.
surprises in the day.
Might make things a little bit easier.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you touched on a few of the things, and I love that you brought up some type 1 specific things. I didn't even have that on my slide, even though this is a type 1 talk. But some of the things that I thought of, maybe there's a bit more mental freedom. You don't care so much about what others think. You have a strong identity. You know who you are through lived experience, and maybe some good solid boundaries. You know you're okay with saying no to things maybe and walking away without guilt. I love that. Deeper relationships. Maybe you don't have like this vast amount of people around as much that maybe you did in high school or your early 20s, but your relationships might be of a higher quality now than they were before, and the time autonomy. So whether you've already entered retirement or are slowing down at work and moving towards that stage of retirement, there's more time for things that you really enjoy and that matter for you now. And as a couple of you did mention, that consistency with your days, consistency with your hormones, those can absolutely be a positive. And I think it's really important for us to focus on the positives, because you deserve it. You have worked hard to get here, and we should be embracing them because there's also some challenges potential challenges that come with this stage of life. And so we are going to explore some of those challenges And hopefully some of the recommendations and the strategies and the tools that we provide throughout will help reduce the challenges, mitigate them, make them less challenging so that you're able to focus more on those positives. Okay. So, what are some of the challenges that we might experience as our bodies start to get older? Some may experience impaired sleep, sleep disruptions, poor sleep levels for various reasons. We will get into that, which may cause some fatigue, lower energy. The fatigue, lower energy might also be caused by some other things. Maybe you're falling asleep midday watching TV more often, which might impair your sleep later on. Maybe you're just kind of feeling sluggish throughout the day. Some appetite changes. Maybe you just have a smaller appetite, not able to eat as frequently or as well as you did previously, or maybe you're finding that um, you're craving a lot more salty or really sweet foods now. We'll look at why that might occur, and then potentially some body changes as well. So why does this happen? If we look at the physiology of our bodies, there's a lot going on. So our metabolism actually starts declining in our mid 20s. But we might not notice it right away because it's not a huge decline. Like it's about a 2% decline every decade. But when we build up those decades over time, our bodies can no longer recover and it's slower to respond to some strategies that we might have used previously, maybe like physical fitness and dietary changes helped get you to where you feel comfortable with your body a lot easier years ago, but it might be a little bit more of a struggle now because of that buildup of the metabolism decline. Our bone mass also, it peaks in our mid 30s. So we get to our strongest point in our mid 30s, and then after that, it starts to go down. Women are at a pretty big risk for this, and we'll talk about that post menopause. Um, some of us with age, we might start experiencing some taste and smell disruptions. So we might not be able to smell food as well, taste it as well. Those olfactory senses are reduced, which maybe that's causing you to put on way more salt than you would before to actually taste the food, or maybe you're gravitating more towards those really sweet foods because you can actually taste the flavors, whereas before maybe some of those more balanced foods they satisfied you before, but now they're becoming a little bit more bland. We will talk about some strategies for that. Our gastrointestinal system also slows down with age, potentially. So, as our bodies age, the stomach is slower to break the food down. And so, I often describe our stomachs as like a punching bag. And when food gets in it, it's like rapidly punching it in every which direction to break the food down into small enough pieces to get through the rest of your digestive system. But as we age, that punching bag goes into slow-mo. Things slow down, the food sits in the stomach for a lot longer, which can create some challenges like yeah, early satiety. You get fuller quicker because you still got food from maybe the previous meal sitting in your stomach. Or when you're eating, it's just not emptying quick enough that you're only able to have smaller amounts. You might find that you've got acid reflux because the food is not getting through quick enough. Constipation. If we're not digesting our food well, we're at risk for constipation. And then, as mentioned, those body changes, many people as they age can experience a gradual weight gain, and this is for both men and women. So these are our general general challenges and the reasons why we might be experiencing some of those challenges, let's get a little bit more specific in terms of, I keep pressing my keyboard to advance the slide and it's not working, so I'll use my mouse. A little more specific in terms of females versus males. So, my female population, we have some challenges when it comes to menopause and hormones, right? As one of you mentioned earlier on, during menopause, the hormones are going up and down. Like if you looked at a graph, it's like an explosion of hormones. You've got peaks, you've got valleys. We have no rhyme or reason to what's going on. Might be experiencing more insulin resistance during that time. Once we come out of menopause, our estrogen levels flatline, our progesterone flatlines, and that can create some additional challenges. Yes, we have the blood sugar consistency, or sorry, the hormone consistency now, which might help with some blood sugar consistency. However, the lower, the flatlining, you might find that you are now having more insulin sensitivity. So you might be experiencing a few more low blood sugars. But some other challenges, this page, this slide specifically is looking at the estrogen flatline. I am going to talk about progesterone. I don't have a slide for it, but I have a little asterisk, sticky note reminding me not to forget about progesterone. If I do, please call me out. Okay, so the estrogen flatline can cause decreased muscle mass, decreased bone density. Remember, I hinted that women are really susceptible to this post-menopause. In that 3 to 5 years post-menopause, it's a rapid decline. So we definitely want to incorporate some strategies to reduce the decrease in muscle mass and bone density, right? And we're going to talk about that later. But the reason we want to implement strategies is because both of those can increase our frailty risk, osteoporosis risk, and sarcopenia risk. So sarcopenia is an age-related condition that involves the loss of muscle mass, strength, and function. We want to reduce that. So we're going to talk about strategies on how we can reduce that. Some other things we might experience: fat shifts to the abdomen belly region. So you may not actually be gaining weight, but the fat might be shifting to the abdomen belly region, making you feel like you're maybe feeling heavier, feeling a little more uncomfortable. I did talk about the blood sugar fluctuations. And then post-menopause, our cardiovascular disease risk actually increases for women. The reason for this is because estrogen is actually a protector for the heart. And when estrogen goes down, the production goes down, which means our risk goes up. There are strategies to help reduce that risk. Nutrition plays a big role here. So that is estrogen. Let's talk about the progesterone. I didn't forget. So when the progesterone flatlines, that can increase things like anxiety, mood swings, insomnia. So there's one potential cause for impaired sleep. And then also decrease skin collagen. So if we think about things like the insomnia, the anxiety, the mood swings, oftentimes when we are uh, feeling these symptoms, we often treat with comfort foods, which can create some challenges on our overall nutrition health, right? So just being aware of connecting some dots on why we might be gravitating towards some of those comfort foods if we are. There's other potentials as well. And then if we think about the decreased skin collagen, that might just create some body image perceptions, some challenges there. Okay. Women, this was a lot. Hold on to this because we're going to come back. We're going to do a check-in. but I want to bring our male population into the conversation as well. So you guys also have some challenges related to hormone changes. And so for our men, there's decreased testosterone, increased estrogen and estradiol. You also may experience fat shifts to the abdomen belly region, increased breast tissue, decreased muscle mass. You also have that sarcopenia risk, but I forgot to mention with the women's risk is actually 20% greater than the men's risk. And I suspect that heightened risk for the women is probably because of that rapid decline in the bone density. The risk there can really impair our strength, our function. And then interestingly, the cardiovascular disease risk is earlier for our male population. Give or take, the risk for cardiovascular disease for men is usually between 50 to 55 years. But once the estrogen starts increasing, your risk potentially goes down because now you have a little bit more protection with the estrogen. Okay.
Katie, one quick question.
Yes, I love this.
The increased estrogen and increased breast tissue, I
Mm,
presume those two are related.
they are. Yes. And I'm glad that you keyed in on that. Yeah. Yeah. So interesting, right? Like connecting dots on where this might be.
Yeah, very much so.
Okay. Okay. How are we feeling? This was a lot, right?
The question is, how many of those boxes do we tick?
I love that you pointed that out too, because not everyone is going to experience all of it, right? Everybody is different. And so you might experience some, you might experience all, maybe. You might not notice experiencing any. So I think that's really important to reflect on that, like, these are possibilities, they're not necessarily guarantees. Any other thoughts here? Okay.
And if you want to speak, anyone, take yourself off mute.
Okay. Okay. Or you can type it in chat and
And
you'll
I'll
let me know.
phrase it. Yep.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Also important to note, we've got strategies for these, and we're going to explore those. So this topic is mostly about nutrition, so that's where our strategies are going to lie and where some of our recommendations are going to come from. This is not a time to diet, but it is a time for balance. And the reason I say it's not a time to diet is because all our macronutrients are really important. They all have a really good role to play, and they have a good role to play in reducing some of those symptoms. And we can include all of them and still have good diabetes management with various insulin dosing strategies and other factors. So, what does balanced eating look like? As I mentioned, it includes all the macronutrients, carbohydrates, protein, healthy fats, fruits, vegetables, great source of vitamins and minerals, and fiber. Fiber is very important. We are going to look at these individually. So, and look at how the importance of all of them and how to incorporate them. Okay.
There was
Gareth, you're
one food
laughing.
there was one food group you apparently missed on there, and that was
Which one did?
chocolate.
Oh, well, chocolate, that's part of balance.
I thought that was the healthy fats, right?
So we will, so okay, you're preempting me, but this is okay. Balance does not mean perfection. And so 70, 80, 75, 80% balanced eating leaves us 20, 25% flexibility. And I'm a firm believer in chocolate. I regularly have chocolate, and it provides comfort. It provides joy. It's just about how we incorporate it, right? So I didn't forget about it. I just didn't include it at that point. Okay, so carbohydrates. A lot of the times when it comes to diabetes, there is a thought that we should be eating very low carb, limiting our carbs because carbs cause blood sugars to rise and it'll be easier to manage if we don't eat them or if we limit them. I am not of that field of belief. We have good evidence that shows if we eat carbohydrates in a well-balanced way, we can manage blood sugars optimally and have nutritionally optimal, our bodies will be optimized with nutrition. Carbohydrates are so important, and as we get older, they provide a really all throughout they provide a good function, but if we're experiencing things like fatigue and low energy levels, carbohydrates are our main source of energy. They break down into glucose, which provides our muscles, cells, organs, other body functions with energy. Glucose is the only source of energy that our brains can efficiently access, adequately access. So, super important. Carbohydrates, they provide cognitive function, fueling the brain, physical function, fueling the body. We do recommend choosing low glycemic index carbs most often. And again, no perfection here. So, sometimes I have white bread. That's okay. There's other ways of managing that by boosting up the fiber. So when we talk about low glycemic index, we're essentially saying high fiber. There's other factors like resistant starches that can also lower the glycemic index. But for today's topic, Marianne, you have a question.
I do. When you talk about, you put fruits and vegetables in different categories. I'm not a fruit eater, never have been. Give me any vegetable out in out in the world and I will eat that. Am I doing
Okay.
myself harm that way?
Okay. So in terms of if you don't eat fruits, but you do eat vegetables.
A lot.
Okay. Okay. Um, so do you like fruits or do you not like fruits?
I don't like fruits. I don't like sweet.
Okay. If you don't like them, you don't like them. I'm never going to force a person to eat something that they don't like. But if you're eating a lot of vegetables and multicolored vegetables, you're probably getting the necessary vitamins and minerals that you need, as long as it's not just one color.
Well, they're all colors.
Yep, perfect. So like a lot when I suggest like fruits and such, I am trying to get the fruits, the vitamins, the minerals, the fiber, right? But I'm also trying to say we don't have to like go off of fruit just because we have diabetes. If you don't like fruit, that's okay. You're getting your vitamins and minerals from other sources
Mm.
in your vegetables. Did that answer your question?
Well, I've lasted this long, so I must
There
be
you
okay.
go. Yeah. And I think someone told me 62 years with
Uh,
diabetes.
well, 60 years this year.
Amazing. Fantastic. Keith, I see you have a question. You have to
Keith,
unmute,
you
Keith.
have to unmute.
Oh, you unmuted and then muted. There we go.
I used to be able to eat all kinds of vegetables with no trouble. But
Yeah.
anymore, I'm finding now that I cabbage causes high sugars to go up, carrots. Uh, there's one more that I enjoy, but anymore, I've got to cut down, take about a quarter of what I like.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, and that might be changes with your body. It sometimes the way our body accepts foods is different. Like I used to be able to eat salmon, no problem. Never had a blood sugar spike with eating salmon. And I love salmon. I'm on the West Coast. We eat a lot of it. And then a few years ago, I started noticing delayed blood sugar spikes with it. And I had to make some changes with how I dosed for it. So, it is, our bodies do change, and how our diabetes responds to foods does change, and we might become a little bit more sensitive to some foods, which means we might need to do some adjustments with our insulin dosing if we really like those foods and really want to continue eating them. Otherwise, trying some other things to see if there's things that we like that will work alternatively. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it's basically what I had to do, but like you said, like
Yeah.
the last time I had cabbage, there was a slight increase, but about a week ago, I had a good sized cabbage salad,
Yeah.
and the sugars went to 17 in a matter of a couple of hours.
Okay. Okay. And then considering what else might have happened in the day, what else you ate, was it the cabbage? Like, we have an N of two, right? We've got sample size one and sample size two. You had a slight rise with the first one, a more significant rise with the second one, ruling out any other potential possibilities that might have caused blood sugars to spike up. If you tried it again and the same thing happens, I would say it's probably the cabbage. If it doesn't happen, it might be something else.
Well, basically, that meal was basically just a cabbage salad. So it is basically all cabbage.
Yeah. Okay. Hard to say. I am
But
I
like
am curious to see what happens next time though.
it's just the same like with carrots too. I used to be able to eat a good handful of carrot sticks and no problems, but now I have to sort of limit myself to 2 carrot sticks and to
Mm,
stay in control. It's
yeah.
just you
Yeah,
think
and I
these vegetables are free, but they're not free anymore.
no, and carrots for some people they do, more than a cup serving can cause a rise. I know carrots cause my blood sugars to rise. But again, like some people, it doesn't cause a rise. So it's different for everybody, but it's also bodies change. And so we just need to adjust.
You might want to
Okay.
consider the dressing in that cabbage salad.
Yeah. Yeah. If there was a dressing.
Well, it's just mayonnaise, and mayonnaise. I can eat spoonfuls of mayonnaise and it doesn't cause any problem.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. It's definitely frustrating when things don't work for us as well as they used to, or as well as we want them to, hey?
I guess after
Um,
65 years, and expected.
oh my goodness. Okay, so a long time, yeah. Okay. So if we're looking, if we go back to the low glycemic index carbs, fiber. The benefits of fiber, they can potentially help blood sugar outcomes because fiber is hard for our bodies to digest. And so it'll slow down how quickly the carbohydrates break down potentially. Um, Proteins, healthy fats can do the same. The fiber helps lower the bad cholesterol and increases the good cholesterol, helping with our heart health. It's good for our bowel health. Remember, we have that risk for constipation, so fiber can help reduce that risk. It helps create a healthy gut flora, which can help with like our immune system, also our bowels, and then it can reduce inflammation. So good sources of fiber: whole fruits, whole grains, nuts and seeds, beans and lentils, avocado, non-starchy vegetables. Um, if you're not eating a lot of fiber right now, I do not want you to think that you need to go and load every single plate up with tons of fiber. that will probably cause some stomach upset. You probably won't like me and you'll probably stop eating fiber. We don't want that because I want you to like me, but I also want you to continue eating fiber. So, what I recommend is start low and grow. Small amounts gradually increased over time until you are getting ample amounts of fiber with all meals and snacks if possible. Okay. Any questions before we move on to the next macronutrient?
What about fiber supplements, Katie?
Good question. So, when would you use fiber supplements? So, if you find it challenging um, to get ample fiber from food alone, fiber supplements can be helpful. If you find that you're eating decent amounts of fiber, but you're still having some challenges with constipation, supplements can be helpful. I also want to make sure that we're drinking lots of fluids when we're taking fiber because that's going to help flush things out too. What types of supplements? So, like, I tend to lean towards psyllium fiber. It doesn't taste like anything. You can sprinkle it on anything. Um, there are like Metamucil, which I find, if you like that orange flavor, okay. Then there's the Restorelax, but the psyllium fiber is a more of a natural one. So that's like if you are going to supplement with fiber, that's the one I would go to. Okay.
Katie,
Yes.
um, for the psyllium fiber, is that something you're stirring into liquid? Is it a pill?
You can get it in bulk. It's actually a powder. You can stir it into liquid. It'll thicken it slightly, but not a lot. I have a lot of fiber in my diet, and I also use psyllium fiber. But I will put it in my oatmeal, and it doesn't taste like anything. So it's just you can put it on salads. You can put it essentially in anything, and you can get it in the bulk department and just take little bits and put it any which way you want.
And how much is a reasonable?
So I would start with a teaspoon because if you
Uh-huh.
go too much, again, you might get a stomach upset, right? So you want to get your body used to it.
Yes, but then as you're amping up, like what becomes your?
I mean, usually I wouldn't go more than a tablespoon. But again, trying to get fiber from other sources, from whole food sources too.
Sure. And I think there's different types of fibers. Some give you bulk and some help you move.
Ah,
So like
yes.
what is this and how, like, who would it be good for?
Oh, this is such a good question, and I knew I should have written it in soluble, insoluble. Okay, can I promise to send an email about the differences between soluble and insoluble? Because I feel like if I say it off the top of my head,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
will get it wrong.
Okay. Okay. Enough
Um,
of my questions. Thanks.
no, no, this is okay. And who am I talking to? I couldn't see.
Oh, sorry, it's Anne.
Oh, hi, Anne. Okay. So, I have just made a note that I will send Victoria an email about the differences between soluble and insoluble. Yes, one is going to help bulk things up, one's going to help make things a little more gel-like and get through the body. I talk about fiber all the time. You would think that I would have the soluble, insoluble memorized. I, I need it in front of me.
That's all good. And then can you also include what type psyllium fiber is when you're sending that email,
Yes,
please?
I sure can.
Thanks.
Okay, I've written myself a note for here, and I will send it to Victoria, and I'm sure she'll send it out.
And
Um,
before we move off that page, Katie, there was a
yes.
question about gut flora and pro and prebiotics.
Yes. They can potentially help. Potentially help with the gut flora. Now, I didn't go in explicits here, um, but probiotics, there are specific types of probiotics that can be beneficial, and same with prebiotics. Sometimes they work for people, sometimes they don't work for people. The Activia yogurt is usually a good option for the probiotics in helping with that, helping with the constipation part of it. Uh, but I don't have specifics on probiotics, prebiotics, but they can potentially help. And so what I would recommend, like if it is something that you're interested in learning a bit more about, there are some dietitians who specialize in probiotic prebiotic health. One of them is Desiree Nielsen. She's based in BC. She's got a lot of information on probiotics and prebiotics. Not necessarily specific to age, but specific to gut flora. Okay. Protein. Protein is very important. All our macronutrients are very important, but protein is very important. Our protein needs increase for both men and women with age. So protein benefits muscle health, bone health, skin health, immune function. So remember some of those risks that we might experience: decreased muscle mass, decreased bone density, decreased skin collagen. Protein can be a benefit for that. Protein will help reduce the risk of frailty and maintain optimal physical function. So when we say protein needs increase for both men and women, for women post-menopause, it's about 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight per day of protein. For men, it's 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight per day of protein. And for the men, it's usually the more is related to if you're more active, you would want some more protein. For women, it is really specific to that post-menopause stage. And so you might do the math, like if you were to if you figured out your weight in kilograms, and if you need me to share how to do that, I can send an email on that as well. And then you figured out, okay, let's say you came up with a number, 125 grams of protein per day, and you're thinking, whoa, that's a lot of protein. First of all, you don't want to take it all at the same time. Our bodies can only take in so much, and you're not going to get the benefit if you take all that protein all at once. Plus, you're probably going to get a really bad stomach ache. So we want to spread it out throughout the day. And what I usually recommend is aiming for about 25 to 30 grams of protein for each meal. That's a good range. It's not super high protein that's going to cause a delayed blood sugar spike. And then, so we do still have to be mindful of that. But usually when protein causes a delayed spike, it's usually when it's high protein paired with high fat. Aim for 25 to 30 grams protein per meal, and then top up with protein-based snacks in between if you can. So what does 25 grams of protein look like? Here's just a few examples. 3 to 4 ounces of chicken, salmon, beef, pork tenderloin, 3 large eggs plus 2 egg whites, a cup of cooked lentils or 1.5 cups of edamame, a cup of Greek yogurt, cup of cottage cheese, 3/4 can tuna. Now, you might be looking at me again and be like, whoa, Katie, this is a lot. Like, how am I ever going to eat 1.5 cups of edamame in one meal? Let's think outside the box. I'm going to say this a lot. I want you to think outside the box. We can mix and match our proteins. Maybe the 3 to 4 ounces of the meats works fine for you. But if we're looking at some of these other options, maybe 3 large eggs plus 2 egg whites is a lot. Mix and match. Have some eggs with cottage cheese or edamame with tuna and maybe some cottage cheese too. Like we can mix and match to boost up our protein without feeling overwhelmed with one protein source. Any thoughts here? Any questions? Concerns?
One thought. Is there any difference in quality of meat proteins versus vegetable proteins or other proteins, if there are?
Yeah, so the meat proteins are gonna be easy. They're a complete protein. Whereas a plant-based protein isn't a complete protein, but if we mix our plant-based proteins, we can get closer to a complete protein, like have edamame with lentils. That's a mixture of plant-based proteins. Or if we did half of the meat with plant-based, that gets us up there as well. Complete proteins just provide all the protein needs, whereas like incomplete ones, they might be missing some of those protein building blocks, right? So, but if we mix and match, that can create a more complete protein.
And another thought on the protein, because protein is expensive.
Mhm.
Given the cost of living increases that we're all suffering, do you have any comments about maintaining protein densities?
Yeah, I think just looking for sales and it is a tough time and like some of your cheaper options might be some of those plant-based ones that you can get more in bulk. But oftentimes we can get like our meats on sale purchase, if you've got a large freezer, putting them away, pulling them out as is. When you get a good sale, maybe make a large meal and have the leftovers frozen. It is challenging, like looking through your flyers, looking to find different sales, shopping around, but also, I don't know what your gas prices are like, but ours are ridiculous. And so, having to drive all over the place just to get a sale, we might not be getting the benefit of the sale if we're using up all our gas.
That's for sure.
Okay. Did that answer your question? Did that help at all?
I hope so.
Okay. All right.
Can I
Well,
can
I'm
I ask
very
a question?
confused.
Yes. Who-
How do you feel about protein powder, which all my 40-year-old adult children are using?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, protein powder can be beneficial, absolutely, especially if we're finding it challenging to get enough protein in with our heightened protein needs.
Yeah,
Just, looking at labels, of course, right? Like trying getting the ones that don't have lots of sugar or no sugar in them.
yes,
But they absolutely can be beneficial. And then you can get creative with using them too. Like you could put them in oatmeal if you eat oatmeal. You could just have them with water or have them with milk. That's giving you a little bit of extra protein. Making a smoothie. Just even putting them in soups if you had a plain flavor protein powder. They can be beneficial. I do promote trying to get nutrients from foods first, but
hmm,
sometimes it can be very challenging. And this is where some of these other supports can be beneficial. And I find because protein needs increase quite a bit for the older population, and if you're experiencing lower appetite, protein powder might be a good option for to get some of your protein, not all of your protein, but
mm,
some of your protein.
Can I just
thank
ask
you.
a question about protein? Sorry.
Yes.
Um, the whey powder versus a vegetable protein powder.
Yeah.
I experimented with both and I found that the whey powder really spiked my sugar compared to using like a plant-based protein powder. Is that
Mm.
common?
It could be because of the milk products, right? Potentially. And it differs from person to person, right? Like it took me a long time to actually start using a whey powder. I actually found it gave me a lot of stomach aches. But when I found one that worked for me better, I got to a point. I used to use the vegetarian protein powders quite a bit. And then I don't know what happened. One day I smelt it and I was like, this smells really gross to me. And so I couldn't use it anymore. And so it was just kind of shopping around for ones that I did enjoy on the whey part. You can get casein ones as well. It's shopping around to find the protein powder that works for you. Like, did you try multiple whey ones or was it just one
No,
that caused that?
I just happened to someone gave me a whey one and I just was like, wow, this really has a different effect on the blood sugar for me.
And then it's looking at like what else is added in there too, because some of the protein powders add more than just protein, right?
Yeah. And also one other question about protein powders. Is there anything to worry about with the lead or the heavy metals in plant-based protein powders?
I haven't seen anything specifically on that. I can't give you an answer on that one. I have from the research I've done on protein powders, I have not seen anything specifically on lead and protein. I can look it up though.
Yeah, don't buy your lead protein powder from a Chinese white paint factory.
I will make a note. I've made a note to look it up and see if I can find anything.
Now, there's another question that's come up, and that is, can you compare cow's milk with unsweetened almond milk?
Okay, absolutely. I love this question. Okay, so cow's milk, and after this question, I'm gonna get to Abby because I see that her hand is up too. Um, so cow's milk is it's an animal product, right? So you're getting calcium in there, you're getting protein, you're getting some carbs. Lots of good benefits. Now, unsweetened almond milk, if you look at the nutritional ingredients, you will be getting some calcium. Usually the milk alternatives are fortified with calcium and vitamin D, so that's good. Not getting any protein. It is mostly water and small amounts of almonds crushed. So it's a good hydration, but you're not really getting any protein with it and no carbs. So if you're looking at unsweetened almond milk for protein, it's not a good option. Okay. Abby, you've been waiting so patiently.
Oh, it's a great conversation. Um, have your advice on the, 1.6 grams per kilo of protein,
Yep.
um, has that been looked at for diabetics? And I'm asking that because about 40 years ago, my endocrinologist and said to protect your kidneys,
Mm,
limit your protein to zero point 0.8 grams per kilo.
okay.
So I've been limiting myself to 54 plus or minus grams per day for
Right.
40 years. And
Yes.
so you're saying, wait, double that.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah. And
any experience or thoughts or research on the impact on kidneys? And is this advice for diabetics or for
okay.
everybody who's our ages?
Yes, this is a great question, Abby, and I'm so glad you brought it up. So, this is a general recommendation, 1.6 grams per kilogram. Now, that being said, when do we need to start worrying about how much protein we take based on kidneys? So we still need good protein, right? And if we don't have any kidney challenges, I would recommend going for the higher amounts. If you're not comfortable with 1.6, definitely more than one for you because of those risks, the muscle mass, the bone density, the weakness, the strength. Protein's going to help support this. Now, yes, there's risks for kidney disease with diabetes, but not everyone experiences that risk. And if our A1C is, relatively stable, 7% or less most often, the risk for kidney disease decreases. So when our risk increases is when we're really having the chronic blood sugar challenges. Does that help?
I think so. I mean, I've never had issues with kidney malfunction or risks, blah, blah, blah. So,
And so
and, you know,
yeah, and I think we really have to like these again, they're cookie cutter recommendations, right? But we have to like look at weighing the positives, the pros and the cons to all options of do we include this, don't we include this? What are our risks right now? What are our risks on all sides, right? Like the risks for the muscle mass, the bone density, the frailty, sarcopenia, strength loss, versus risk for kidney disease, which it is absolutely a risk for people with diabetes. And 40 years ago, there was, a lot of concerns. There still is, but we have a lot more information now. We have a lot more knowledge now. Our risks for that does reduce when we're able to keep our blood sugars, stable more often. So, meeting those time and range targets, the A1C 7% or less, risk reduces. Okay.
one quick footnote is I've learned that endocrinologists are the experts on osteoporosis and osteopenia. So any of you who have concerns, raise that next time you're seeing your endo.
They do have good information. They have good information on hormones as well. Okay. So, healthy fats. These are also really important. So, our healthy fats, these are our unsaturated fats. They come from our plant-based oils, fatty fish, nuts and seeds, avocado. Those are some sources of some good healthy fats. Healthy fats help decrease our lousy cholesterol levels. So that's the LDL, and increase our good cholesterol, which helps with improving heart health. It helps with age-related outcomes as well. So, just giving your body a nutritional optimization, skin health, it can help with that too. Helps with post-meal fullness, brain health too. And so lots of good benefits to our healthy fats. Now, our saturated fats, these ones, they kind of have the opposite effect. They can create challenges with our heart health, maybe clog our arteries, increase our cholesterol levels. They come from mostly from our animal products, but also from tropical oils like coconut oil, palm oil. So that said, there's a lot of good nutritional value in some of those foods that have saturated fats, right? Animal products, good source of protein. Dairy's got protein, it's got calcium. I don't want you to not eat these foods because they've got good value. So we just recommend like choosing the lower fat options. So when we're talking dairy, 2% milk fat or less is considered low fat. Cheese, less than 20% milk fat is considered low fat. And then like if when we're having meats, the chicken, turkey, those ones are your leaner sources, incorporating more fish. If you have red meat, just removing the visible fats. Same if there's skin on your chicken and turkey, we want to remove that too. And trying to bake it in a more healthier way if possible, limiting how often you're choosing the deep fried options. So that is our healthy fats. Any thoughts here before we start putting it all together?
And on this one, eating whole cows and statins is probably not the best choice.
No. No. Also, a whole cow probably going to give you a bellyache and cost a lot of money.
Just a little bit, yes.
Yeah. Yes. My son and I, we go to this burger restaurant every once in a while, and they had a burger that's like this big, and they've got pictures on the wall of people eating them. The people just looked horrible when they finished. Like no one looked happy when they finished, and many people couldn't finish it. But I was just like, That is not happening. It also costs like, I think more than $80 for that burger. So no, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's put this all together. We talked about the carbohydrates, the fiber, the protein, the healthy fats. How do we put this into a balanced meal? If you've been to a diabetes center in the last 10 years, you've probably heard of the balanced plate model. Half a plate is non-starchy vegetables, quarter plate of lean protein, quarter plate of carbohydrates or starches. The more fiber, the better. This middle picture represents that mostly. This is one of our go-to recommendations, but I like to emphasize it is not a rigid recommendation. We do not have to eat a plate like this. Many people don't eat off of a plate. Many people like bowls or other forms of putting their foods on, and the plate model just doesn't work. Sometimes we have lower appetites. That food might be too much. So if we can think outside the box of what balance looks like, let's look at some of these other pictures here. So I don't know if you can see my cursor, but if we look at this wrap, is, one wrap, that's carbohydrates. Whether maybe it's got fiber, maybe it doesn't, but we're getting fiber from the greens and the avocado inside here. We've also got an extra side of greens off to the side. We got a good protein source in the chicken. I do see there's bacon. That's a once in a while thing. But overall, this has protein. It's got healthy fats. It's got fiber. It's got carbohydrates. It's a well-balanced meal. If we look down here, we've got some toast. It looks like it's on a whole grain bread. Then maybe that's hummus. So we've got plant-based protein, which also has fiber and healthy fats, some tomatoes, and looks like some olives. So we're getting some extra fiber and healthy fats. That's a balanced meal. It's including all the macros, micros that we want. If we have a lower appetite, this cottage cheese bowl would work. So cottage cheese, we're getting protein, we're getting calcium, we're getting some carbs. We've mixed and matched our protein here. So now we're getting some eggs with added protein. And then we got some fiber from the cucumbers. If we wanted to add some berries, that might give us another boost of carbs and fiber. Balanced. And then the top, this one over here, looks like it could be oatmeal with some chia seeds. Maybe there's some Greek yogurt in there. Maybe there's some dairy or a milk alternative. We got some fruit on top, and looks like either coconut or slivered almonds. That has carbohydrates, fiber, healthy fats, protein, good balanced meal. So these pictures are just kind of to show you that we don't have to be rigid with our recommendations. We can think outside the box. We can tweak them to make them fit for what our needs. If we have a smaller appetite, if we eat in a different way, we can tweak all these recommendations to suit our own individual needs. And as I mentioned earlier, balance does not mean perfection. So when I talk balanced meals, we're talking 75, 80% balance, which gives us that 20, 25% wiggle room for flexibility, which could mean some more comfort foods if you like those, social eating at restaurants, cultural foods. I absolutely want to optimize your nutrition so that your body is healthy, your diabetes is healthy, but I also want you to enjoy eating, because if you don't enjoy eating, what is the fun in that? Food can be great and we should enjoy it. And so if there's things that will help you enjoy it more, let's embrace them. If we're being balanced 75 to 80% of the time, we can embrace some of those other things as well. Okay. So here's what I encourage you to do. I encourage you to consider everything that we've kind of talked about. We're going to talk about more stuff too. And think about, what can I boost into my daily eating? What can I boost on my plate or bowl or whatever I'm eating on. I would rather you look at the things that you can boost more so than the things that you limit or restrict. So things to boost, here's my recommendations. Breakfast. If you are not eating breakfast, I highly recommend eating a breakfast. It doesn't have to be a big meal. It can be something small, maybe a snack-sized option. Breakfast starts your day. Remember that we have that risk for low energy fatigue. Well, if you're starting your day with some breakfast, um, that can help. Help boost your energy levels. And it can also potentially help reduce how frequently you might be choosing some of those comfort foods later in the day. If you're one of those people who, drinks coffee after coffee after coffee in the morning, and you don't have a meal until the afternoon, but you're still feeling a little sluggish, maybe the coffee's not working for you. Maybe a breakfast meal would work. And I see that you have a question.
Hey there, I'm just wondering about intermittent fasting. If you're not low energy, is there any reason not to be doing that?
If it works for you, you can do it, right? Like, so again, like these are general recommendations. I'm a big fan of promoting breakfast, but if you find that like you're fine with your energy levels, you're not experiencing any late day overeating, maybe intermittent fasting works. So, we do, and consider like the reasons why you might do intermittent fasting. Are you doing intermittent fasting for blood sugar management, A1C control? Weight
Yes,
loss,
yes,
like,
yes.
yes, yes, yes. Okay, so intermittent fasting, what we know about it is that it can have a really good benefit to lowering the A1C and potentially weight loss acutely. So within 3 or so months. It, what the research has shown is that the benefits start to peter out over time. And now that's not to say that you might, all of a sudden you come down and go back up. You might just come down and stay there. You might come down, go back up. We don't have a lot of good evidence to show like what the long-term effects are. But what we've seen in the research is that yes, we have a really great benefit first 3 or so months. After that, it tends to peter out. If you enjoy it and if you find it works for you, and you're able to get adequate nutrition, including the protein, and carbohydrates. So we like good a minimum amount of carbohydrates in the day, 135 grams of carbs per day spread out throughout the day. That provides us that brain function, that brain energy. So if you're intermittent fasting, depending on how small your fast is, how long your fast is, are you able to get adequate nutrition in the eating period? If so, and if it works for you, great. If you find over time it's becoming more of a struggle, you might want to change things up.
Okay, thanks.
You bet. Okay. Other things to boost social meals. I'm going to talk about this again later, but social meals can really it can just make food enjoyable. It can stimulate appetite. It can motivate to try new foods. I think it's a great thing to boost. And everything we talked about, if fruits and vegetables, plant-based oils, avocado, unsalted nuts and seeds, fatty fish, whole grains, lean protein, calcium, hydration, which we'll talk more about. Uh, all of these, if there's something in there that you feel like, oh, maybe I could try adding this and see how it works, great. You're boosting up your nutrition. Notice that my boost column is a lot longer than my limit column. So when we look at the things to limit, highly processed foods, and when I'm talking highly processed foods, I'm talking like, fast food, deep fried foods, consistent chips, frequent chips, frequent packaged cookies, those sorts of things. A lot of those foods have a lot of saturated fats, a lot of refined sugars. The next one is on there is the refined sugars. So refined sugars, they can get stored in our fat stores, which can create some nutritional challenges. So we want to try and make these more once in a while things, not frequent things. Alcohol, general recommendations, not drinking more than 2 drinks at a time. Just being aware. So if we drink alcohol in excess, it can also get stored in our fat stores, but also we are at risk for low blood sugars up to 24 hours after our last alcoholic beverage. So which may have us treating lows more frequently, putting us at risk for not recognizing lows. So just being aware of that. If you are drinking, always drink with food. And then let's limit over restriction because it's not fun. Okay. Any other questions about that? All right. So let's look a little closer at some more specific challenges. What happens if you have a low appetite? You find it challenging to eat larger meals, based on what we've recommended. You maybe you experience a lot of constipation and it's making it harder to eat. You've never eaten breakfast and it's just not part of your routine and you don't know how you would handle that. You don't have much of an appetite in the morning. What can you do? Well, if it's trying to incorporate breakfast after never really having that as a habit, it might be just kind of retraining your mind to try and accept it. And you might want to start with something small, like a snack size thing that has carbohydrates, protein, maybe some healthy fats, something small and just build from there. But if you have like a low appetite for whatever reason, smaller, more frequent meals might serve you better. So rather than eating every 4 to 6 hours, you might want to eat every 2 to 3 hours. You might want to replace a meal with 2 to 3 smaller snacks. And then trying to time activity if you're able before a meal to help stimulate the appetite. What happens? You live alone. You don't want to make a big meal. You don't have much motivation. How do you manage that? Simplify the meals. Quick and easy meals can be very balanced. So, eggs and toast, a side of greens, that's a balanced meal. If we go back to the wraps can be so easy because you've already got a tortilla there. Pick out a protein source. You could have eggs, you could have leftover meats, you could have cheese, you could have hummus, Greek yogurt. You could, if you wanted more savory, if you had pre-cut vegetables, you could throw those in. You could throw greens in. Or if you wanted more of a sweet one with the Greek yogurt, you could do some, mashed berries in there. Wrap it up. There's a balanced meal. Any questions there? I have one more potential challenge I'm going to talk about. Okay. Taste and smell changes. What happens when the food starts just tasting super bland and we're just not excited to eat and we're loading up the salt or going for the highly sweet foods? For whatever reason, this can happen to people as we age. Some of it can be related to, if you've gone through cancer and had treatments, that can cause it, but it can naturally cause as well without any treatments. So some suggestions: playing around with different herbs, spices, broths, citrus, garlic, onion, vinegars, salad dressings, marinades. Trying to get a flavor profile that activates your taste buds. If you like Indian spices, they're quite strong. That might be enough to create that burst in your mouth and your nose. Pairing salty foods with sweet foods might be a good combination that registers with your taste buds. So something like cottage cheese with fruit. For the sweetness part, adding natural sweeteners like vanilla, cinnamon, cardamom, nutmeg, caramelized onions, fruit. It's a lot of trial and error, playing with different things. All of these potential challenges is a lot of trial and error, trying to figure out what works for you guys. And I know that you're good with trial and error because diabetes is all about trial and error. So it's just playing around with things to see what works for you. Any questions before we move on to additional factors?
I don't see any. Please
Okay.
carry on, Katie.
All right. We've had lots of good questions throughout, so this is good.
I actually put,
Oh,
excuse me, I put a question in the chat. I don't know if it landed. I just wanted to ask about frozen meals. Are there any that you somewhat approve of?
I mean, I would say, okay, what is your motivation for frozen meals? Is it the ease of it? Is it just having something there?
Oh, yeah, both.
Yeah, for sure. So if we consider what we would eat without the frozen meals versus what we would eat with the frozen meals. If a frozen meal is going to give you a balanced option of at least getting some food into you, I'm not opposed to it. If you're not going to eat much, or if you're without that frozen meal, I think that you're probably getting good nutrition by having that frozen meal. Yeah, it might be a little saltier than what we generally recommend. But again, it's looking at the pros and the cons of eating it. If eating a frozen meal is going to give you nutrition versus, not cooking and not eating, a frozen meal is probably the better option, right? Now, are there better frozen meals than others? It's hard to say. So like there are some that like are lower salt. Like I would suggest like if you're looking for the frozen meal, and I don't have like specific brands off the top of my head. I know that some of the grocery stores are different in Ontario than they are in BC. So what we get might be different from what you get. But if you're looking at the nutrition labels, just look for the lower salt ones. And then if that tastes bland to you, though, you could still play around with spices in that frozen meal when you're reheating it, right? So if you've got spices in your spice rack, just try and play around with those to get a bit more of a burst. It doesn't take a lot of time to shake something on, right? And see how it works. But it again, it's trial and error there. But if that doesn't work for you, again, weighing the pros and cons of, do I have the frozen meal, or do I not cook tonight and maybe grab a bag of chips or something? Like weighing those pros and cons. Did
I
that answer your
often,
question?
yeah, I often add fresh veggies to a frozen meal, which helps. And frozen
Perfect.
veggies are presumably as okay. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So oftentimes, when vegetables are frozen, they're frozen at their peak ripeness, which means you've got your peak vitamins, minerals, all of that in there. And so, if we're buying fresh vegetables out of season, it's often being shipped from goodness knows where and stored in a cooler. We're not getting that peak value. Whereas with a lot of our frozen vegetables out of season, those ones we are getting the peak nutrition value.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So let's look at a few additional factors. Hydration is really important. And when we talk good hydration, we're saying like mostly water, but like herbal teas, milk, those count. Fortunately, our caffeinated beverages don't really count towards the hydration factor. Um, 6 to 8 glasses at minimum. If you can have more, the better. Good hydration helps prevent headaches, dizziness, constipation. It keeps coming up, and the hydration is going to help with it. It helps flush our sugars out, helps with fullness between meals. And I recognize that drinking that much can be a challenge for some, especially when our bladders feel like sieves and we're constantly going to the washroom. And we maybe don't want to frequent the washroom as much. I will tell you that I am a frequent washroom user, and I have come across some really interesting washrooms in my years. So that might be a benefit, exploring different washrooms. I found one that had a picture of George Clooney in it. That was quite lovely. I had another one that was, I don't know if any of you saw the Harry Potter movies, but we had Moaning Myrtle playing in the background. There can be some interesting things in washrooms. Anyway, that's my little soapbox there, but some strategies for getting good hydration. Keeping a bottle nearby and refilling when needed. Sipping throughout the day. You have seen me sipping throughout this session. I always have this with me. Yeah, there we go, Garrett. It's a good strategy. I find that the straw does help because you're not having to take a lid off. You just grab it and sip. Drinking a glass of water when you wake up. So keeping a mug at your nightstand if you have one, getting up, waking up, doing a stretch, and then taking a swig of the water. It's going to be warmer, which can help activate your bowels, again, helping with the constipation. Hot tea does that too in the morning. It's a good way to start your hydration off in the day. And then, for some variety, flavoring your water with berries, lemon, cucumber, or choosing sparkling water, non-sugar options that have different flavors, different herbal teas, rooibos tea, just getting creative with some of the options there. Hydration is very important.
Do you have any comments about adding hydration salts? Those
Well,
packets with flavors and
yeah. Are we talking like the Mio drops kind of thing?
that's
Or or the noon kind of electrolyte ones?
more like the electrolyte ones, I think, is what I was thinking. But the
Yeah.
Noom ones, as far as I can see, are just flavors.
Yeah, yeah. Well, those ones have they're specific, sport specific. The Mio, I think, are the flavors, Crystal Lights flavors, although Mio might have the electrolytes too. So when would we need more electrolytes? If we're sweating more, if we're more active. So that's when I would say add the electrolytes. Otherwise, just if you like the flavors, there are powdered options like Crystal Light. I think Kool-Aid has a sugar-free option too, that you can just use for flavoring. Okay. Foods versus supplements. Should we supplement? I'm not a big fan of telling people to take more pills, but here are some important ones and specific to the aging process. So vitamin D, we get that from our sun and we get it from fortified foods and drinks. It helps with our bone health, our muscle health, our immune health. Vitamin D is really, really important, especially as we age. And for anyone, if there's anyone in BC on the call other than me, this angle of our sun in BC is not, it's always at a weird angle that we will never get enough vitamin D from our sun. And oftentimes, most people won't, no matter where you live. I recommend 1,000 IU per day of vitamin D. Calcium. So calcium benefits our bone health or muscle health or heart health. General recommendations for men is 1,000 milligrams per day. For women is 1,200 milligrams per day. Do we need to supplement calcium? What I would suggest is looking at your eating patterns now. Are you getting calcium-rich foods? So calcium-rich foods include our dairy products, our fortified milk alternatives, canned fish with bones, leafy greens like kale, bok choy, spinach, tofu. If you're getting good amounts of that, probably don't need to supplement. It does become, a bit more challenging to absorb some of it as we age. So maybe you might need a little bit of a top up. Just keeping in mind, if you do supplement with calcium, calcium can increase risk for constipation. So again, trying to make sure you got enough fiber in your diet and good hydration to reduce that risk for the constipation if you're supplementing with calcium. Omega-3 is really important for heart and brain health. Generally, we say you're probably going to get your best absorption from food over a supplement. It doesn't hurt to supplement with omega-3, but your best absorption is going to come from food sources. So some good food sources for omega-3s is our fatty fish. So 2 to 3 servings of fatty fish a week is the recommendation. Not everyone's going to be able to do that. But fatty fish like salmon, trout, mackerel. Other sources, flaxseed oil, hemp seeds, walnuts, tofu, chia seeds, fortified eggs, omega-3 fortified eggs, good sources of omega-3. And then vitamin B12, there is a potential risk for B12 deficiency as we get older. Generally, give or take, around 50, our body starts being challenged with absorbing B12. Now, B12 comes mostly from our animal meat, fish products. And as we age, it becomes a bit more challenging to absorb B12. If you've ever been prescribed metformin and been on it for a long time off label, the metformin can also decrease our B12 levels. So symptoms of B12 deficiency include tingling hands and feet and extreme fatigue. So what I generally recommend for people over 50, just requesting that your doctor put a blood work order in for B12 on your next blood work, just so that you can get a baseline knowledge of where your B12 is. If it's less than 225, we recommend 1,000 micrograms per day for a month, and then 1,000 micrograms per week after that to maintain B12 levels. And then we always recommend, like if we're started on a supplement, we want to check the B12 again, just to make sure things have come up. Any questions there? Okay. Physical activity. This is my final factor here. It is still very important as we age, as it is when we are younger, and the recommendations for physical activity do not change from stage to stage of life. So general recommendations are still 30 minutes, 5 days a week of moderate to vigorous cardio plus 2 to 3 days of resistance, or 150 minutes per week of cardio, not going more than 2 days without exercising. General recommendations. If you are very active right now, fantastic. If you are not very active, we have to consider, okay, how active can you be? Now, physical activity, the importance of it is it's going to help keep your strength levels up. It's going to help preserve your lean muscle mass, maybe even build lean muscle mass. It's going to just reduce that frailty risk, right? So very important. Now, if you're not very active right now, we have to consider what are your abilities, right? Like we have to weigh the pros and cons too to what you can do. I don't want you to think that you need to go and run a marathon or get a gym membership. If you want to do that, great. And if you can, great. But it's not necessary. Let's consider again, think outside the box of what constitutes physical activity. So think about things that you do every day. Do you clean your house? Do you vacuum, wash walls, clean your bathroom? We know that those activities lower blood sugars a lot of the time. If they're lowering blood sugars, probably helping to burn energy, it counts as physical activity. Gardening, yard work, walking your dog, if you like dancing, bowling, I got a hula hoop here. If you have grandchildren, running around, running after your grandchildren, playing with your grandchildren, anything that gets your heart rate up counts as physical activity. Simple walks are probably the easiest if you can manage them, right? Or parking your car further away from the entrance of a door just to get your step count up. That can be very beneficial. And if you're not very active right now, start small. 2 or 3 days, maybe target 15 minutes of something just to get you started on this path if you can. The resistance exercise is very, very, very important. Resistance exercise that can be light weights, resistance bands, body weight. I'm not saying you need to go lift 50-pound weights. Nope, don't have to do that. What I am saying is that resistance exercise, even light amounts of it, 15 minutes, 2 to 3 days a week, can be so beneficial in preserving that lean muscle mass, helping with the bone density, helping reduce the frailty risk, preserving your strength, reducing the sarcopenia risk. All of resistance exercise is so beneficial for all of that. So if you're not doing it right now, and if you're able to, I recommend incorporating. Even like Diabetes Canada has a resource for an intro to resistance exercise, chair-based exercises. Pretty easy, and you can do it while watching TV. So there is an opportunity to help reduce some of those risks and challenges that we talked about early on. Any questions here? Okay. So let's put this into action. We're almost done here, my friends. I recommend, considering reflecting on everything we talked about, following today's session, and identify 1 to 2 small goals. They don't have to be huge goals, small goals that can be achieved in a relatively short period of time. And so many of you have probably heard of the SMART goals. I follow the SMARTer goals way. So we want our goals to be specific. So specific, they need to be clear. Measurable, we need to be able to track the progress, have a way of tracking our progress. Action-oriented, there should be an action included into the goal, and it should be achievable, so realistic, relevant. We want the goal to matter to you. If it doesn't matter to you, you're probably not going to do it. Timely. There should be a time frame that you're working towards. If you can be enthusiastic about the goal, that's going to help you. And if there's a reward included, that's going to help with your enthusiasm and also help you work towards the goal. So with all of that in mind, we want to start with 1 to 2 small goals, and then reassess, reflect, reassess every 1 to 2 weeks. Consider, did you achieve the goal? If not, okay, can we modify it, or maybe work on something else? If you achieve the goal, can we build on it or add another goal on top of it? And so I've got an example here. So here's my smarter goal example. Over the next month, time bound, 3 days every week, measurable. Monday, Thursday, and Sunday, specific. I'm going to incorporate 15 minutes of weight training, achievable and action oriented, while watching a hockey game, reward, to protect my lean muscle mass. Relevant. It means something to me. Now, I chose a physical activity goal. You could choose something nutrition related, like breakfast or hydration or more fiber or more protein. Anything kind of goes, just whatever kind of means something and is important to you. Any questions here? Okay. So here's my general summary. Hormones in both men and women present various challenges as we age, but we do have some strategies to help mitigate those challenges. Balanced nutrition is one of those strategies. It can be very beneficial. Food restriction is not advised from my perspective. We may need to think outside of the box when it comes to meals, especially if we are experiencing some of those individual challenges like lower appetite, low motivation. Oh, I don't think I talked about that one. Okay, I'll come back to that. Exercise still plays a significant role, especially resistance exercise. And then perfection is not the goal here, but balance is. And I just realized when I was talking about the low motivation to cook, if you're cooking for one, I forgot to mention some of the other strategies. We talked about the simplifying meals, but utilizing leftovers, putting them into freezer safe containers, and pulling them out the morning of to reheat. That's easy. Social meals, if you can go out with friends, go to a friend's house or invite family over, cook for them. That might be good motivation. Optimizing the environment, the eating environment, that can help with that as well. And sorry, I completely forgot about this, but this reminded me of it. That is everything. Any final questions here? How's everyone doing? How's everyone feeling? That was a lot of information. And I think I'm a little bit over time.
Yeah, that's my fault, Katie.
We're good. As long as everyone else is good, I'm good.
That's right. All
Hi.
right. So everyone, you can see Katie's website there. Thoroughly recommend you go and take a look because she has
And
lots of good stuff there.
And if anyone has any questions that come up afterwards, I am more than happy to answer them. My email is on this slide here. If you want to reach out, I'm more than happy to answer any questions that come up. You guys have been a great bunch. I've loved the questions all throughout. It's been fantastic.
Thank you, Katie.
You're very welcome.
Bye. She heard.
All right.
Thank you.
So, Katie, on behalf of everyone, I really want to thank you from the bottom of our stomachs.
Love that.
And yeah, your information was exceptionally helpful. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me. I have really enjoyed it.
All
Thanks,
right.
Katie.
Okay, well, thank you very much to everyone for attending. Hopefully, you've all found this very useful. As Katie says, you have her email there. And that's info@katiebartel.ca.
Sorry, I took it off. Yeah.
That's all right. I remember what it was.
Amazing.
There's more people.
So, does anyone have any closing questions or remarks that they'd like to bring up?
I do.
Carry on, Marianne.
So, Katie, I'm not sure if you address this on your website. Maybe you can. We're aging. We hurt. It's called arthritis. So, arthritis-friendly eating.
It's a good question. I do not address it on my website. And I think it is, it's playing around with things. We can focus on anti-inflammatory foods, reducing inflammatory foods, looking into those and seeing if they work. It might work, it might not. It's just trying different things. So, the oftentimes we'll talk about like, oh, you might have like inflammation, so let's focus on some of those anti-inflammatory foods. Like, well, Marianne, you mentioned you don't like fruit, so I'm not going to mention the fruit, but fiber is an anti-inflammatory.
Oh, no, this is a whole different topic, and I understand it's in a whole different conversation. So I was just putting it out there. You don't need to give an answer today, but it's maybe
Yeah.
something we can introduce in the future.
Yeah, and I would be happy to look into it a little bit more specific to diabetes as well.
And I'll try and eat some fruit tomorrow. That's my
Only if you
goal.
like it. Only
Good
if
on
you
you.
like it.
I only eat grapes to treat lows.
Okay.
They
Okay.
do that very, very
They
well.
sure do.
Yeah,
Yes.
too fast. Okay.
You kind of have to watch how much you have, otherwise you might be going over
Yeah.
over
Let's
there.
count those 4 grapes out. Don't eat any more.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's really hard though, isn't it?
especially when you want to buy 8 at the grocery store. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes. Kara, I see your hand is raised.
Thank you. I just wanted to, I don't know if it would help the arthritis as well, but a few years ago, I had horrific neuropathy. And my sister, who's a pharmacist, like they wanted to, I live in the US. I'm not a big fan right now. But they wanted to put me on really hardcore medications. And my sister said, try alpha lipoic acid because that's what they really recommend in Germany. And you can buy it over the counter. And it takes about 3 months. And honestly, I do believe I couldn't even walk for like 6 months. It got really, really bad. And I feel like that's why I'm walking again. I'm hiking again. And I do
Amazing.
feel like that it was because of that. I did take very high levels of it because that's recommended if you have neuropathy. But yeah, so I don't know if that would help the arthritis too, but just a thought. Or if anybody has neuropathy or struggles with it.
No, I don't struggle with neuropathy in hands and feet. I have autonomic, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, autonomic neuropathy, which deals with unusual or unexplained dizzy spells, and also why I get laughed at with my family when I eat cheese because I break out in facial sweating. So it is another neuropathy. But the neuropathy on the feet and the hands, I don't suffer with. Just the other one. That's embarrassing with my family. They laugh.
You
It's
laugh
just
with them.
it's just you're
They laugh at
special,
me
Marianne.
because, pardon?
You're special, Marianne.
I'm very special, but it is
Exactly.
common. It's extremely common amongst type 1 diabetes. We just don't have a name for it. But there is a name for it if you happen to suffer from things like that.
It's like rheumatoid arthritis is another side effect of type 1 diabetes. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
anything with overactive immune systems.
Yeah. Janice, I see your hand is up.
Yes, I have idiopathic neuropathy, which means there's no known reason for it in my feet. And I've had it for 10 to 15 years. So my feet just hurt all the time.
It's one of
Oh.
those things, just blame diabetes. You're probably not wrong.
Right.
Doesn't help you, but
I mean, if you're open to it, I really encourage you to talk to your doctor and maybe try alpha lipoic acid. It honestly, I do feel like that's look it up because it's the main thing they use in Germany for neuropathy.
Yep. I'm going to check that out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
all right. Well, if there's nothing else, let's give Katie a quick round of applause.
Thank you all. I will give you a round of applause right back. You guys have been great. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I hope to come back again.
You most definitely are welcome.
Amazing.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Keep your eyes peeled to your email, and Victoria will be setting up the next one. I'm sure with Nick's help. And thank you very much, Nick.
Thank you, Nick
Always.
and Gareth. Appreciated.
All right.
All
Thanks
right.
so much.
Bye.
Thank you, Nick.
Bye-bye.